Welcome to the buymeacoffee.com/James Poeartistry, the coffee tips page that supports my James Poeartistry creative productions and work. See also jamespoeartistry.online.
Hello, Perceptive readers. This is James Lynch, July 14th, Sunday. Here is a topic that I want to share with you today, and it's on generosity. You know, I believe firmly, and you most likely do too, that the two greatest commandments, you must love Jehovah your God with your whole heart, whole soul, and whole mind. And the second one, love your neighbor as yourself. That involves generosity and a whole lot of it. It also involves respect. You know, even when it comes to authority, guess what? Authority does not go into the realms of presumptuousness. So what do I mean? No matter how much authority we have, we were not given the authority from God to still be presumptuous. There's an example in the Bible, a man named Uzzah, and that example is placed in there for several reasons, but one of them is to show how God does not appreciate presumptuousness. And especially, you see, with sacred matters. And when you think about sacred matters, what else do you think about? Well, from the 10 words or the 10 commandments, where God said, you must not use his name in vain. And we've also discussed how when it comes to using God's name in vain, it doesn't mean, calling curses down on God's name, but also in our actions of what people say, teaching people about God, as far as taking, his words or his name to actually harm somebody in an adverse way, to hurt them on purpose. That's also using God's name in vain, because God is saying, look, you are doing this, or you are saying this, that has caused my people to run away from me. I'm basically paraphrasing or emphasizing the feeling that God was talking about in Ezekiel, where he was saying that even his people, some of them, they needed bandages and everything, to be bound up spiritually, getting back in good health and feeling good as well. You see what I'm saying? And I believe that is more of the connotation of what God was saying, even back in Ezekiel day. But he was talking even to the ones who were supposed to be helping in that matter, which would have been, the priests, that he was saying, you're running my people away from me. See, because of the way that they were treating them. Now, keep that in mind. And keep this also in mind before I go further. Remember, I'm just sharing history about some of these things. You hear me talk about God's servants and things of that nature, the priests and things of that nature. And that's just because this is actually history, things that have happened that God wants us to know about. But it still does not, change the fact of ones who still do serve in those capacities, who are doing the best that they can. So, that position, positions of priests and ministers and stuff, if you want to look at something as being foreordained, that it would just be these group of type of gifts and men that would be on the earth during this time, then that's the truth too. You see, that's the fact of the matter. So all we do is keep talking about the different type of individuals at times too that has strayed off, so that the individuals that also have those positions even now won't do the same thing. And we try to stay positive as well. Just like that one interview that I love showing. I probably show it again tomorrow. But it was talking about even with peace officers. And they actually interviewed even a captain. And they were getting his feelings on, how people like to say the bad cops, the focus on in that way. But the way that captain responded, I got to tell you, I just really like the way he responded. I really do, because he said how, it's evil when something like that happens. We were talking about where, you have always bad individuals in every occupation, every single one of them. And so, that's me telling you that. But what he responded to was, he said, I still have to believe that it is still less than 1% that go that route. And that overall, you see, there's good men and women, who really are doing the best they can at their jobs, basically. So I gave you the feeling of it. Now, with that being said, let me get right back to God's people being bandaged up and things of that nature. You see, there's two things I want you to keep in mind. Two things you are not to give up. Now, you have the choice, of course, to give up one of them. But see, that's your choice. And you should not be coerced or anything in that matter, because anybody who will coerce you in other ways using strong arm tactics, it goes to show they're wrong in what they're doing. You're a grown adult. Okay. So what is that? Two things you are not to give up. Your right to worship God. See? Your right to worship God. And the second one is your conscience. And remember, your conscience involves all sorts of decisions. It involves your association, the food you eat, and things of that nature, you see. And so sometimes you may yield certain conscious decisions to help somebody, but the point is the choice is still yours. Why is that? Because, I'm just telling you, and you got to really keep in mind everything that we just talked about, everything. So I would encourage you to go right back through and listen to what we just discussed in the first 7 minutes, okay? Because of what I'm about to say next. Trust, if you will, but verify. That is reasonable. Trust, but verify. Because this has happened. This has happened. Persons at times have, given very wonderful and nice speeches and things of that nature about what God would do for them and this and that. And the thing about it is, as I told you, a man's responsibility, his first responsibility is to himself, his worship, and his family. Period. That's just period. And what has been stated at times, and this is a fact. It's a shame to hear somebody give a speech about how God is duty bound to take care of you, to take care of his sheep, etc. And yet, when that sheep turns over all the reins of their life, then guess what? The shepherd or whoever was claiming that position fleeced that sheep. took everything from that sheep and did not take care of that sheep. So what am I sharing with you? In that case, was that person claiming to be a shepherd of God or what have you? Were they using God's name in vain in that instance? Yes. Now, was they saying some very flowerful language that sounded good? Yes. Some of it applied. But what it still boils down to, in this day that we live in, and you know it, trust but verify is reasonable. I would tell you it's unreasonable to keep trying to pressure somebody to give up something there is no reason for them to give up. You know, I've talked about artists. I'm talking about people, their home is their haven, their castle, and things of that nature. And to just go behind their back and steal their homes, steal their finances, or whatever, that's being a cave of robbers. Jesus talked about that. So the whole point is this. If you want to take care of somebody as well so bad, you better make sure you are clearly talking to them and not behind their back, not in the snaky ways that the way Satan does things, because that's the way a lot of communication really is. You know, you have your conscience to do this or do that. But, you know, I've always told people sometimes, and see, and I've dealt with ones like this. I've applied it. People can get to a point in their life where their trust has been trampled on so much. And I told you now, to this day, I think it's just downright insensitive and arrogant to keep pushing somebody that you know for a fact what was done to them, even though you act like you don't know what was done to them. You're still insulting their pain. You're adding insult to injury. No, you're insulting their intelligence, and you're adding insult to injury. Me personally, when somebody went through hell and they've been fleeced, they've been robbed, they've been scammed and everything else, all under the guise of somebody saying, it's God's responsibility to take care, then why didn't you make sure that person was taken care of? Why didn't you, when you heard their cries, even though they sounded so outlandish or unreasonable, you didn't give them the time of day, but you just tried to keep sweeping them under the rug? You know what? You approach that person now, you better approach them the way the person told you to. And so, are you going to condemn the person now? Look at it. Arrogant. Don't even listen to us. No, who intelligence you insulting? You do the right thing. And that's one thing that I tell you. Some people, just like myself, I told you, you got to buy me a coffee. You can write me and contact me. Anybody tell you not to do it, they're part of the problem. Now, you can listen to them or you can listen to me. But I told you before, there are certain professional business practices that's still going on today that if Jehovah God was allowed stuff like this in his new world, yes, it does seem like it's still just unrighteous to me. But see, I feel strongly that's not my opinion. I feel strongly that no, we're going to have better ways of communicating, or should I say, we already have the communications and the way to do honest and professional business practices. It's just that some people, just don't want to do them because it allows for incompetence and negligence and things of that nature. And that's why they do it. It's supposed to be for efficiency, but it's not. It's only efficient in just being selfish. So I gave you all that information to re-emphasize two things you don't give up: your worship to God and your conscience. You see, remember, you can yield on your conscience of certain things or what have you. That's your choice. And then also remember, there's a priority that God has stated for you, especially if you got a family. God said, a man who does not take care of his own household is a man worse without faith. So you can see that's a responsibility to do your best to take care of your household, not sit around and let somebody or any other person scam you and herd you into a situation where you'll be an indentured servant, and even then they still don't never pay you for your services. That's what's going on in the world today. And, you know, a lot of stuff has been turned into conning people and scamming people that has no business getting into these different areas or sector of society, but it's there. So trust but verify is reasonable. And anybody who doesn't want to do it, anybody want to talk you out of doing it with somebody else, then you know what? They just got an agenda as well. Have a wonderful day, Perceptive readers.